What's up YouTube, Minerva and Maelstrom here. So we are back finally after my long hiatus for the Set 8 early lists. I do want to apologise deeply for the gap there has been in the content recently. This has been non-stop health issues. They're not going to be going away, so I am going to be doing a 2023 channel update video just explaining what's going on. So please do stay tuned for that. But to the reason you are here, the early lists. I know that it's not so much early now, but I do still want to get these lists out because I've had them written for a while. It's just not been able to record. So first things first is this video is going to be Luquier, Minerva and Maelstrom. So we're going to go in that order, and starting off with honestly my most favourite deck out of the set in Luquier for Dark States. So the first card we're going to cover is obviously Luquier herself. And Luquier has got two skills. First one being Act Vanguard Circle. Once a turn, you can Counterblast 1 and put one card from your hand into your soul. You then choose 3 units of different grades from your soul and call them to separate rearguard circles. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, the units called by this effect all gain power plus 5000. And the second skill is also Vanguard Circle. At the end of your turn, you can put 2 of your rearguards into your soul to then draw a card. So obviously this very much envisions what Pale Moon is, calling units from the soul, and then it's Magia-esque in the form of putting 2 back into your soul to then draw a card, which is really nice. Also helps get your specific piece you want to keep in safe from opponents retiring, bottom decking, that kind of stuff, until your next turn, and then you can then do it again next turn. And the fact that the draw then replaces the card you're putting into soul, so it's actually a ±0 for the whole turn, is really solid on top of that. We're then going to cover one of the key units that you'd be calling from Luquier next, in Silverthorn Rising Dragon. So Rising Dragon himself has got 2 skills. First one being, also, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, you can put 1 card from your hand into your soul to then draw a card. And the second skill is continuous rearguard circle. During your turn, if you've got a Vanguard with Luquier in its card name, if you called 2 or more units this turn from rearguard circle to soul, this unit gets power plus 10,000. Then if you called 4 or more units from your soul to rearguard circle, this unit gets an additional power plus 10,000. So this becomes a nice 30k beta for calling 4 cards from soul, which is a really big number. Persona Ride 40k, plus the booster 48k, and Luquier's 5k 53k. Really big numbers generated. And you're getting the ability to put a card from hand to soul to then draw a card, which really works nicely for filtering for shield, setting up your next turn Luquier. So many different things you can combo off with. But the key thing to note here is it's 4 or more, but Luquier only calls 3. So how do we hit the 4? That happens in the form of her order, which is hurry and join us, my Silverthorn servants. Now I do want to stress that the Japanese kanji for Silverthorn is different between this and the actual card name. So this is technically not a Silverthorn card, but it may end up being worded like that when it comes to English, but we all have to wait and see. So the card does, you can play this from your soul if you've got a Luquier Vanguard, but no matter what, it costs Counterblast 1. Choose one of your rearguards, and during that turn, it gets the skill of Auto Rearguard Circle. When your Vanguard attacks, you can put this unit into your soul, choose 1 card from your soul with only Pale Moon as its clan, and it's got a lower grade than or equal to your Vanguard, and call it to Rearguard Circle. So here is where you generate your 4th attack. It is very much locked to you can only call a Pale Moon card out, so it'd be the cards that are within this set for the encounters for Luquier. But that's still a very nice bit of support generates our 4th attack for the cost of a Counterblast, and it combos nicely with the genericness of Dark State, so the fact that you can activate it from the Soul. So you can pop this into Soul with either your Rising Dragon, your Luquier, or some of the other generics, and you really get to benefit off this. But that's it for the card discussions. Let's look at an example list. And what I've got here is a nice example list that I've been testing myself personally. As you can notice here, I've got a few other good generic Dark States cards in the deck. I have got Failsafe Performer here, so I can manipulate what's in my drop zone into my Soul for the early ride-ups. And also, because this deck monitors quite nicely what is within its Soul, on the grade 3 onwards turns, you can actually manipulate getting your order from the drop zone into your Soul and combo off quite nicely. Plus, you've got the alternative options in here of Miroslava. For if you don't have an order, you can Miroslava to call something else out to generate the 4/4 Rising Dragons plus 20k. And then, because obviously the deck hits really big numbers, we've added in 3 copies of Quenlu. So Quenlu obviously gives 2000 power to the Rising Dragon, and then gives it the can't guard with grade 1s or higher. So when he's swinging for 55k at that point, because he was 53k before that, and they can't use perfect guards, that drains a lot of shield from their hand. So if you force them to 5, it's chuck 4 cards down, or you're dead. And because obviously it's not a restand, and it's not a crit gain, neither the counter heals work on it, so it's got to be for big shield cards, which is really good. But this is the basics of a Luquier deck. There is a grade 3 within the set that does, when it's called from Luquier, Soul Blast 1 to Countercharge 1. But I've found that you can honestly manipulate the Soul the damage gain quite nicely. You don't actually need to order on turn 3. So manipulating what you do and don't use a Counterblast does become very easily for the deck, and I found it not to be that necessary. Moving on, and we are now on to Minerva. So we'll start off obviously with the boss girl herself in Omniscience Regalia, Minerva. And Minerva's got 3 skills here. First one being Continuous Vanguard Circle. During your turn, if you have a grade 3 with Regalia in your Soul, all your front row units get power plus 5000. Then second skill is an Active Vanguard Circle. Once a turn, you can Soul Blast 1 to look at the top card of your deck and put it on the top of your deck up into your Soul. And then the third skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. Once a turn, at the end of the battle this unit attacked. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Cat Blast 1, Soul Blast 3, and discard a Genesis only card from your hand to stand this unit and give it drive -1 during that turn. So, going through these skills, there's a lot of homage to old Genesis skills. The first one is a very big homage to Minerva actually being an original cross ride, because she used to go on top of Angelica and gain 2000 power. So having a grade 3 Regalia in your Soul is cross ride, and giving 5k to the front row is really nice. Second skill is a very big homage to Revelation, which was the G skills for Genesis, mainly Fenrir and Amaruda. And this is really nice again, of the checking the top card and either leaving it on top if it's a trigger. If it's something you want in your Soul, you can put it to your Soul. And it puts a lot more thought process into the deck, which is really nice. And then third skill is her generic skill she always had of restanding herself for an extra attack. Yes, you don't have to discard 3 this time compared to where you had to for the OG Minerva. But instead, they've reduced that cost, but making it specific in discarding of Genesis cards. So, what other Genesis cards have we got? Well, they couldn't bring Minerva without bringing along with us the Regalia of Wisdom, Angelica. So, Angelica's got the skill of Auto Rearguard Circle. End of the battle this unit attacked. If you've got a Vanguard with Minerva in its card name, You can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your rear guards, and during that turn it gets 5,000 power. In addition, you can put this into your soul to countercharge 1. So obviously, this is really nice for the deck for the fact obviously it generates soul. The soul blasting cost works with how Genesis did, because obviously Genesis was soul blasting and gaining skills off the cards you soul blast. And then obviously this sliding itself into soul does activate Minerva's skill on the first grade 3 turn, which is really nice. And it's even more the homage to the cross ride, because Angelica's definitely making sure she's in under Minerva, which is really nice. The counter charge does very much help the deck, because it is a very counterblast reliant deck, as you will see by one of the cards that works off of soul blasting in the Witch of Crows Chamomile. So Chamomile's got 2 skills because she's the ride deck card. First one being, when this unit is ridden upon by a unit with only Genesis in its clan, you then look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 cards from among them, and put them into your soul. And the second skill is, when this unit is put into the drop zone from your soul during your turn, if you've got a Vanguard with Minerva in its card name, you can counterblast 1 and call this card to a rearguard circle. So obviously, this is our nice attack extensions in the deck. Because obviously you're soul blasting it with either Minerva, Angelica, other cards that you got that soul blast generically within Keta Sanctuary. And getting that extra attack's really nice. But then you're going a step further in the fact of she's not just random soul charging, she's also specific soul charging, because you're looking at a 5 and grabbing 2 of your choice. So you can find extra copies of herself to put into soul. Thin out your deck, your non-triggers, your non-perfect guards, so you've got a higher chance of checking them. This is really good for the deck. But enough of talking about Genesis cards, let's have a look at an example list. So the example list I've got here is a really nice one. We've got Drilling Angel for putting our Chamomiles that are ended up in our drop zone back into our soul again, so we can then reutilise those skills. We've got Painkiller as an extra activation of Chamomile, so obviously she can boost an attack, Soul Blast out a Chamomile, recall a Chamomile, get to go off, really nice. Melissa has got the same skill as the Chamomile, but it doesn't cost Counterblast, but must go to back row, so obviously she's just the ride line again. But we have got 2 important ones here, first one being Cider. So Cider is a very good card for the deck, for the sheer fact of it's got the skill, and when this card's placed on the Guardian Circle, it gains shield, just like she always did. But then at the end of the battle, she boosts, if you've got a Minerva Vanguard, she bounces herself back to hand again, like she did in the V format. So obviously, she can boost a Minerva, to then bounce herself back to hand, to then be the discard fodder, which is really nice comboing. But the most important part of this deck is the fact of it actually got good non-locked encounter support. And that is in the form of the grade 2 that was in the, you can see in the image next to Minerva, in Knight of Severance, Diane. Diane's got the skill of, when this unit is placed on the rearguard circle, if you have only one of the clan in your Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1, discard a card from your hand, then choose a card from your drop zone with the same clan as your Vanguard and add it back to your hand. So obviously this is really nice because it obviously lets us discard non-Genesis cards to pick up a Genesis card to then be able to use Minerva. But we can also filter out, get our Persona Rides. The card we Soul Blast could actually be a Chamomile to help build our board up even further. It's got so much potential within a card. You'll see in this list that I do want to quickly mention, which wasn't in Luquier, is the Regalis Cup. And it gives Persona Ride if you've not rode grade 3 that turn. The reason I didn't put it in Luquier is for the fact of you want to be using your order every turn. So having the cup in there makes it a dead card because obviously you always want to use your order. Whereas in this version, with Regalia, we don't use orders. So having the cup in here makes a lot of sense. And rounding up, we do have a Maelstrom. So, start off with the big boss himself in Blue Storm Dragon Maelstrom. Maelstrom has himself 2 skills. First one being Act Vanguard Circle. Once a turn, you can discard 1 card from your hand and choose 1 card from your soul whose clan is only Aquaforce or a tier dragon, and call it to rearguard circles. And then during their turn, it gets the skill of Auto Rearguard Circle. When this unit attacks, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher and it's the first battle of the turn, you can Count Blast 1 stand this unit. And at the end of the turn, you then put that unit back into your soul again. And the second skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, if it's the 4th battle of that turn or later, you draw a card, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, and retire it. So second skill is very much the Maelstrom skill that everyone knows from the OG era. It's changed slightly for the fact, obviously, it used to be if it doesn't hit, you get to draw a card and retire. Now it's just no matter what, you are drawing and retiring, which is really nice for the deck. But then you've got the extra bit that it's giving of getting tier dragons and Aquaforce units from your soul to rearguard circle, and then putting them back into soul at the end of the turn, but also getting a multi-attack off of it, which is really nice. Because obviously you do need ways to hit that 4 attacks quite nicely for the deck. Another one of those multi-attack extenders would be in the forms of Tidal Assault. So Tidal Assault's got 2 skills, first one being Auto Rearguard Circle. When this unit attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your Vanguards with Maelstrom in its card name, and give it power plus 5,000. And second skill is, at the end of the battle this unit attacked, if it was the 2nd battle of that turn, and you've stood Vanguard with Maelstrom, you can Counterblast 1 to stand this unit. So this is an alternative restander for the deck. Say you don't want to use the Maelstrom skill, you can use this skill instead to restand himself. Plus he's actually buffing your Maelstrom, because the thing that is known for Aquaforce is it doesn't get over defensives easily. So giving that extra little bit of a buff to your Vanguard, because it's also, the first skill's not once per turn. So you can Soul Blast 1 on the turn on the attack 2, restand Tidal Assault, swing again, Soul Blast 1, give Maelstrom another 5k, and then Maelstrom's hit 23k, it's scaled over any defensive they may have hit. So really nice for the deck. Yes, it is a resource reliant deck, but you've then got other ways to deal with it because it's in Stoicheia, so you've got good resource gaining. But we have got one final card to discuss, and that's another attack extender in the forms of Wheel Assault. So Wheel Assault's got the skills of Auto Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle this unit boosted, if you have a Maelstrom Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 to choose 2 of your rearguards and switch their positions. So this is what Wheel Assault's always done. It's always chose 2 of your rearguards and swap the positions. This actually works quite nicely for letting Maelstrom utilise cards like Gabreg, which will then say, something swung in my column, I gain 10k and I then gain the guard restrict based on your rearguards. You can then swing with the Wheel Assault column, use that to push Gabreg to the front row, and then Gabreg's ready to go live, which is really solid for the deck. But that's enough talking about the Aquaforce cards. Let's look at the list. So as you can see here, it's a generic Maelstrom list. You've got four of the inlet pulses, because who doesn't like in-soul draw for 4 attacks, which is guaranteed. You've also got the Swell Assault, which when it gets to 5 attacks, because deck actually can very easily get to the 5 attacks. It puts itself to soul to then countercharge 1. So you're generating a counter charge and a soul charge, which is really solid for the deck. We have got, obviously, the usual ride line. The key thing is the ride line itself actually hits such as its order, which is one card we haven't discussed yet, which the order's called Storm of Judgment. So the skill is, if you've got a Vanguard Maelstrom, you can play this for free, which is really solid. It's a grade 3 order, so it does take time setting up. And when this is placed in the order zone, you can do all of the following effects. First one is, choose a Aqua Force or Tear Dragon from your drop zone, and then call it to Rearguard Circle. And the second part is choose one of your Rearguards, and for each other Storm of Judgment in your order zone, it gets power plus 5,000 to end a turn. So it's not amazing, but it's if the game drags on, the power builds up gradually over time. Key thing to note here is that Inlet Pulse is a Tear Dragon, so it combos off really nicely with all the different parts, because obviously Maelstrom can call it from Soul, you've got the Order that can call it from the drop zone, say you've Soul Blasted it, and you've still got Algos, which is the Rideline card, which can then, due to his skill, when he's rode upon by the Maelstrom, you can dig in the top 7 to try and find an Inlet Pulse, which is really good. Algos is at a higher count, obviously, as well, for the sheer fact of it's also got on-hit draw a card, which is really nice for the deck. But it's got to be the 4th battle in the turn or later. So it's very timing reliant, I think is the best way to put it. But it's something that's very easy to manipulate. He does also gain power on top of that, so he would also scale over defensives. But it's all in all a very fun deck. So that was the 3 encounters that we gained in this set. All in all, Luquier looks to be the strongest of the 3. Maelstrom currently is the weakest of the lot. But Maelstrom's also got the chance of getting more support for the fact if he actually works off of Tear Dragons. And we've already seen a Tear Dragon in set 9, which is really good support for Maelstrom. But that is going to be it for this video. If you haven't done so already, please do like and subscribe. It very much does help the channel. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye bye.